All right, so now that I got the bearings all situated and replaced, I'm starting to work on this locker. You can see there's these teeth in here, and then it's got this tab, I forgot what they call it. And that has to line up with this open slot right here. And once it's together, it sits nicely. I put some marks on here, on this side, 2 on that side, and 1 on that side. And the same thing on there when it's all together. So this thing's got pins on one side and slots on the other, so when it goes together, everything lines up. It can only go one way. All the tabs inside need to line up too. And so I put marks, so when it's together inside the diff, all the marks are gonna line up. And I'll know if everything's lined up like that I put it together correctly. And you can see it has that tab right there that falls into this notch. Can't go any other way. And then the same notch right there has to line up with that tab. And they have to oppose each other. So they're not gonna be in the same place on each half. They're gonna be on the opposite sides. And that's what it's gonna look like again when it's all together. Lined up there and there. So once you got everything apart or accessible, the first thing that they want you to do is use some sort of heavy grease, wheel bearing grease, and apply it where the saddle springs are gonna go. So these holes right here. So just a little bit of grease in there. This syringe works pretty good. I guess when they have you put the grease in the holes, they want you to put those springs in there with it. One step I forgot to show was putting grease on the spacer and the drive gear. They want you to take the couplers, these things right here, put them inside the differential. And they want the notch for the paddle facing towards you on one side and away from you on the other. So it's gonna be like that, and it's gonna be like that. And I put alignment marks just to keep it easy for myself. So you wanna make sure that that paddle opening right there is facing towards you. Next, they wanna take the spacer with the paddle on it and drop it into the ring gear. You can see that only fits in there one way. So the next thing you want to do, making sure that this is lined up, you're going to drop it inside, keeping everything together. Now I turned this on its side and I zip tied it together just because it's a little easier for demonstration purposes. But normally, if this thing was in the vehicle and the axles were in there, it might be a little easier for you. And having those marks on there made it a little easier for me, but once it's lined up, you'll see that the teeth will mesh and they'll turn together. So also these notches right here, they all line up. So now you're gonna do the same thing with the other side. You can see that's gonna be towards the ring gear, which isn't installed. And now that's gonna be, and this is, the ring gear is where the passenger side, and then the other side is gonna be the driver's side. So take the spacer, make sure the paddle drops into that opening. I'm gonna go ahead and remove the zip tie. All right, so I got the paddle facing away from me. It's gonna slip right in. And those pins should line up. And having those marks on there tell me that everything is exactly the way I assembled it on the bench. And I know that everything is correct. You can also see the teeth fully mesh right there, which if anything was misaligned, would not occur. So now they want you to wedge both drivers in, engaging the couplers just to make sure that the teeth fully engage all the way around, which they do. Okay, now they made sure everything fully engages all the way around. They want you to rotate this thing quarter turn, and that'll reveal the spring slot. So place the 2 inner springs inside the 2 outer springs. Press the inner spring and install spring assembly into the slot. So that has got to go in there. So this might be the hardest part, and really it's not too bad. Just spread the drivers and the couplers apart, compress that spring a little bit. I've got it raised up just enough to where get the spring started like that. Try to push it down in there. It's really hard to do this while trying to film. Okay, that was definitely a two-handed operation, but not too bad. That's how it should look. And then flip it over and do the other side, or rotate it. Okay, same thing, got it started. Feed in the inner spring. Again, 2 hands. Okay, there it is, fully installed. Let's see what's next. Okay, visually inspect that all the springs are in their notches, which they are. So once they're good, you should be able to rotate this thing around again, and using the gauge, it should fit in vertically, but not horizontally. So go, no go. All right, so after the springs are done, check to make sure that the saddles line up with this hole in the carrier, and the pinion shaft should be able to go right through there. So you're going to want to orient the hole to line up with the roll pin hole, which is right there. You can't see it because the pinion shaft isn't all the way through. This is hard to do. One hand. Okay, I got the pinion shaft almost all the way through. Oh, one last. Okay, there it is. It was just hanging up on the other side of the carrier. So, pinion shaft, it's gonna slide in right there. I'm gonna put the roll pin in now. Even though I can see the hole for the roll pin, I'm just gonna put a punch through there just to make sure it's lined up. That way I don't try to drive the pin through and have any difficulty with that. So that punch goes through, good to go. Roll pin punches help. You can see it's got that special tip. I don't know if you can see it. Probably not. There it is, the roll pin's installed. The locker is complete. It's time to put the ring gear back on. I don't know if it matters, but I put a little alignment mark on there as well. And I can see it right there. All right, so the ring gear is back on. All the bolts are just finger tight. I'm gonna go ahead and put this thing in my vise just to hold it. I don't need it to clamp down. I just need it to hold these slotted areas. So just keep it from turning. And then I'm gonna torque this thing down. All right, that's the setup in the vise. I just put a piece of wood just to keep the bearing protected. And then as you can see, the flat spots on the carrier are in the jaws of the vise, and I just have soft jaws on there, which I use for everything, unless I really, really need the aggressive bite. But yeah, it's not even tightened down. It just, again, stops it from turning. So this way I can put torque on it. Okay, now they're all just wrench tight. I'm gonna do the final torque now. And that's it. My locker is installed. And my carrier is complete with new bearings. So thing is ready to go. Thanks for watching, guys. See you on the next one.